How are you today?
I'm doing all right, Teddy. Looking for some winners on this week's slate. Week number 6 coming your way, guys. We got the Monday nighter coming tonight, Thursday night. We got Sunday and Monday football. New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs right at the top here, Teddy. -5 and a hook. That is the Chiefs as the home favorite. 43 and a hook being the total. Anything quickly on the Monday nighter?
Yeah, we really haven't seen a whole lot of movement on this Monday night game at all. Been sitting basically 5.5 all week. Been sitting 43/43.5 all week, and getting two-way action at those numbers. So I'm not anticipating any significant moves between now and kickoff. I am in play on this game for the clients. We are running pretty good in the NFL the last couple of weeks, 67% NFL run. You can get that play right now, wt.buzz/TC over at wagertalk.com. But I encourage you, if you want to get something, hold on. We got a really good offer later in the show that we're going to break down to get on board for a package, not a play. But I am involved tonight for what it's worth, and I'm not expecting the line to move tonight between now and kickoff all that much for what that's worth as well.
Injuries on both sides of the football, guys. And hey, interesting stat here from the Gold Sheet. A nice little nugget for you. The Chiefs on a 5-16 underrun in Arrowhead. So, hey, maybe points at a premium tonight for Monday Night Football. All right, we got Thursday, October 10th, teeing it up here, guys. San Francisco and Seattle. We are seeing the 49ers -3-point road favorites. 47 in the hook being the total in the Pacific Northwest here, Teddy. Thursday Night Football. Let's get going on the Week 6 slate.
Sure. This is the NFL opening line report. We talk about the openers. We talk about where we think the lines are going to move. And with each game, I'm going to give you 4 different numbers. I'm going to give you the look ahead, which is the bettable number for this game last week. Talk about how much one game influences the point spread. This shows us very clearly. I use the numbers from the Westgate Superbook they post every Tuesday for the following week's game, for the 13 days in advance or 12 days in advance. I'm also going to give you my powering number, and that's all just Team A, Team B, home field advantage. There's no situation in my powering number. I talk about situations in my analysis. So we have the look ahead line, my powering number. Then we have the opener from last night. And again, opener, lots of different books open. I use what I call the consensus opener. I do it usually during Sunday Night Football after the lines have been up for an hour or two, see what the consensus numbers are. And then we talk about this morning where the numbers are on Monday morning here on the West Coast. I know it's Monday afternoon for already all of you back east already. We talk about where the numbers have moved off the openers. So that being said, with San Fran and Seattle, look ahead line, 49ers -3.5, total of 48. My powering number is only San Fran -1.5. Opened last night, 347.5, and that's basically what we're seeing today. 3, there are some places where there's juice on the 3 for San Fran, 47.5. So my powering number says San Fran may be a little bit overvalued in this spot. Assuming my powerings are right on. And look, the 49ers are a 2-3 team right now. Where's the pass rush yesterday? They only had 1 sack of Kyler Murray. Where's the run defense? They allowed 169 rushing yards on 6.5 yards per carry yesterday against Arizona. Ayuk had a huge game. Kittle has a huge game. Jordan Mason, 6.4 yards per carry. But he had a key fumble. And, of course, the red zone offense, only 1 touchdown in 6 tries. -2 in turnovers. Second time in 3 weeks, San Fran has blown a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. They were scoreless after halftime. Fred Warner, quote, in the second half, we kind of melted down. Too much leaky yardage, missed tackles, not fitting it right. The special teams had a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, which is a 10-point swing on one play, and they still lost straight up as touchdown favorites. San Fran has 2 wins this year. They're 2-3. They beat the Patriots and they beat the Jets in week 1 with no preseason for Rodgers and starters. I think that's why my opinion of San Francisco is slightly different from the markets right now. I'm a little bit lower on the 49ers, hence my lower powering number. Of course, the questions of San Fran being any good, and Seattle has the same questions. They're 3-0 start. They beat Bo Nix in his NFL debut, Jacoby Brissett, and the combination of Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson. That's the 3 wins they have. No shame in getting beaten by the Lions in week 4, especially with all the defensive injuries. But they allowed 175 rushing yards to a Giants team that was averaging, 85 yards per game on the ground. They were 30th in the NFL. They still have cluster injuries all over their defense. Geno Smith, quote, "We played bad. That's the reality. I don't think we executed well. I thought we came out slow. Talked about starting fast. That's not how we want to start. And then turned the ball over, not finishing drives. all of the above get you beat in the NFL. That's what happened to Seattle yesterday. A baffling game plan. The running backs, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, combined 7 carries for 30 yards. They had less than 23 minutes of possession. In my mind, that's on the coach somewhat. That's on the offensive game plan somewhat. And certainly against a team like San Francisco that showed vulnerability to the run last week, if Seattle just decides, we're going to just chuck the football 60 times, that's not necessarily a winning proposition. So there you have it. Seahawks, 49ers, Thursday night football. And Thursday nights, let's not forget, they tend to be a little bit random.
They absolutely do, Teddy. Great start here, guys. 49ers, Seahawks in the books on Thursday night. Flipping the script here, Sunday, we get October 13th, 6:30 a.m. Pacific, heading to the other side of the pond here, Teddy. Jacksonville and Chicago going at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We are seeing the Bears -2-point home, quote-unquote, home favorites. 44 and a half being the total. Teddy, one thing I remember from doing the show with you and asking you questions, learning from you, is the one team that you've mentioned in the past you do give an advantage to playing over in Europe is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Does that come into effect in this game? And what's your overall thoughts here? Jaguars and Bears, opening line report on Sunday.
So yes, in a word, the answer is yes. Look headline here, Chicago -1, total only 42. My powering number, I gave Jacksonville 1 point for being in London because I'll talk about why in a minute. Anyhow, with me giving Jacksonville 1 point, my number was Chicago -1. The betting market's probably viewing this as a neutral site game. It was 1.5/2 last night, total of 43. We've seen a little bit of Bears money. They took out all the 1.5s and 1s. Now it's -2 pretty much across the board. It's still 1.5 in circa here in Vegas, but everywhere else I'm seeing 2s. And the big move on this one has been the total. We've seen a lot of over money for Jacksonville and Chicago. That total now 44/44.5. No one's bet the under on that just yet. So we're seeing over money and a little bit of Bears money. And look, we saw some really good things from Chicago yesterday. They were +3 in turnovers. Caleb Williams, 9.9 yards per pass attempt. Carolina, 4.4 yards per pass attempt. Williams after the game, that's definitely how we want to play. Definitely what we envision as an offense and as a team. We have to keep doing it. Explosive plays all over the place. Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, DJ Moore all had long catches for the Bears in that ball game yesterday. And Chicago riding a winning streak as they travel to London, which may not necessarily be the best thing when you talk about a place with real distractions. The Jags last year did not make the playoffs. They did, however, go 2-0 straight up and 2-0 against the spread in London. They beat the Falcons 23-7. They beat the Bills 25-20. They play in London every year. They probably have a little bit more of a fan base than most other teams in London. And certainly I give Jacksonville, like I said, I gave them a point for home field just because of their familiarity, because they go there and they've done this before. And certainly we haven't seen that from Chicago. And Chicago is a very young team. Let's see. They snapped a 9-game losing streak with Trevor Lawrence behind center yesterday. He hadn't won a start since last November, which also was the last time he threw for 300 yards. He threw for 371 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday. That being said, the Colts defense was a sieve in that ballgame. They didn't get a sack. Didn't have any pass rate of 2.9%. 2.9% pressure rate. That's the lowest of his career. And of course, what happens when you have no pass rush? You get 8.7 yards per play. That's how you do that. And even with that, all right, Andy still scored 24 points in the fourth quarter without Anthony Richardson, without Jonathan Taylor, without their starting center. They still had 447 yards. They still converted 7 of 14 third downs. The Jags' defensive concerns have not been solved. That's a big part of the reason why we're seeing this over money early for Jacksonville and Chicago. That and the fact that the Bears' downfield passing game worked last week, really for the first time. No surprise here. Again, if I was going to run an emergency betting alert, over for this game certainly stands out. If you like the over, bet it sooner rather than later.
Like it, Teddy, as we get to the 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kicks up next, 265, 266, going down in rotation order. If you check out Wager Talk Live odds screen, we're going right down the list here on the NFL page. Washington and Baltimore. We are seeing the Ravens -6.5. pretty much across the board here, Teddy. 52 and a hook being the total. You called it with the Commanders and the offense last week. Does it carry over here? Washington and Baltimore.
Fascinating game. Let's talk about it. Look headline here, Baltimore -7, total 49.5. My powering number is only 5.5 for the ballgame. Sorry, that's 7. That's not what it's 7.5. It was a 7. My powering number is only 5.5 on the game. Opened 6.5, 51.5 last night. We're still seeing 6.5s, and now we're up to 52.5 with the total today. So the betting markets, like we talked about in the last game, they're expecting points in bunches. The question is right now, how do the betting markets price the Washington Commanders? All right, Washington came into the season, they were expected to be one of the 5 worst teams in the league. They have not been one of the 5 worst teams in the league. They haven't been close to being one of the 5, and they're sitting in first place in the NFC East with a 4-1 record. That's the second best record in the NFC right now. How do we price Washington? Do we price Washington as a decent team, as a good team, as a mediocre team that's been getting lucky? Markets aren't quite sure. And that gives some room, in my mind, one of the reasons that October betting is unique in the NFL. You know, each season is a little bit different. And in October, the casual bettors, the recreational bettors, they figured out who's good and who isn't. The wise guys are still thinking about what teams were supposed to be. Washington is a class example of let's forget everything the team was supposed to be. This team's a heck of a lot better than we thought they were. And the markets has taken time to adjust. You know, they gained 9.5 yards per pass attempt yesterday, 215 rushing yards, 6.3 yards per attempt on the ground. They had 7 sacks of Deshaun Watson. They allowed 1 of 13 on third downs. This was the biggest halftime lead they've had since 2015. They're 4-1 for the first time since 2008. Bobby Wagner, a guy who's been around the league, a guy who's been in Super Bowls, quote, "We can be a really scary team." They won their last 2 games by a combined 49 points. All right. They've already matched their win total from last year. Terry McLaurin, quote, "The vibes in here are really high." Guard Sam Cosmi, quote, "I haven't been a part of, quote, good culture." He's in his 4th year with Washington. "Slowly but surely, I see it. It's really cool to see, to be a part of talking and acting on it. I'm excited about that." John Allen, who's in his 8th season here, compared to this year, compared to every other year, quote, "It's night and day." Jaden Daniels, the first player in NFL history to throw for more than 1,000 yards and rush for at least 250 in his first 5 games. This is a guy who set an NFL record for completion percentage in the first 4 games of his season as a rookie. Yeah, he threw a really ugly interception at the goal line yesterday, and it didn't matter. Still a dominant, winning performance. For Baltimore, they were on the lucky side yesterday, you know, in a number of different ways. Cincinnati melted down a little bit. They were able to overcome a Lamar Jackson fumble in overtime on a snap that he wasn't prepared for. And it's worth noting, after the game, Jackson wasn't, "Oh, I played great, look at us," all that. He was mad at himself for that fumble. You know, 3 times Cincinnati led by 10 points in the second half. 3 times Lamar Jackson brought Baltimore back into the games. And how about this for a stat? The Ravens have outrushed their opponents by at least 100 yards in all 5 games this season. They've outrushed their opponents by 754 yards through 5 games this year. That's hard to do. That being said, there are questions about that defense, although the kicking questions were solved a little bit yesterday. Justin Tucker, who had been just 1 of 7 on attempts of 50 yards or longer since the start of 2023, he had a pretty big 56-yarder in the 4th quarter of that ballgame to send it into extra time. So, fascinating game here. If you've been riding Washington, again, the betting markets, they're still not enamored with the Commanders. There may still be value to bet on them. That being said, this may not be the right matchup for them. And are they a team we trust to continue to win? Good game on Sunday. Drew.
Great nuggets from TC there, guys. And sure enough, we have seen the push towards the over. As you just heard there, a lot of offensive statistics. Now 52 and a hook as the total there in Baltimore. Moving down the list, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here, Teddy. Arizona and Green Bay. We are seeing the Packers anywhere from -5, -5.5, 49 and a hook being the total. Cardinals at Packers from Lambeau.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Green Bay -5.5, total of 51. My powering number has the Packers a full 7 in this ballgame. The markets aren't there. The markets are, as you mentioned, 5, 5.5. There's a 4.5 out there. but mostly 5.5 total in this one was 50 last night. You wake up today down to 49.5. So we've seen a tick to the under for this ball game. And look, the Cardinals defense pitched a second half shutout yesterday with 3 takeaways. They bent but didn't break. They allowed only 1 touchdown in 6 red zone opportunities. They stopped the 49ers 4 times at or inside the 10-yard line, 3 field goals and a fumble on those drives. This is a week after, you remember that 42-14 loss to Washington, in which defense didn't stop anything. They allowed a blocked field goal and return for a touchdown, and still won the game straight up and against the spread as underdogs. Jonathan Gannon, quote, "We wanted to get it to the fourth quarter and have a chance to win the game, and that's what we did. Last week was not a good performance by us. They took that some type of way, meaning that they were, the fact that they got their butts kicked brought them out with a little bit of extra juice. Now they're coming off a win and traveling across the country, which is not necessarily an optimal sign. It's worth noting Arizona's been great on the opening possession of the game. 5 games, 5 opening drive touchdowns. The rest of the games where they've only scored 7 touchdowns on all drives after that opening TD. Might be 8, but it's not many. Green Bay leads the league in takeaways. They have the most takeaways by any team through 5 games since the 2021 Bills. 14 takeaways so far. Explosive plays galore yesterday in the win at LA. Jordan Love threw a truly awful pick 6, the first of his career. And boy, that motivated him. Afterwards, he threw 9 straight completions, including a pair of touchdowns, and basically guided the team to victory. Although the point spread decision was based on a 2-point conversion that was not successful for LA. Good news for Packers bettors like myself. Otherwise, it would have been a push. Love after the game, quote, "The pick, it was a bad decision and it's tough, but it's all about how you respond and bounce back." Matt LaFleur. I think that drive, when you throw a pick 6, that's never fun. But to be able to take us down there in the 2-minute drive and get some critical points when points are really tough by, I think that's what he's all about. After the pick 6, Love took him for a field goal drive before halftime. And when you get a bunch of tough-minded guys, and I think that just kind of manifests itself, and it's contagious. NFC North really looking like the best division in football of this year. Frankly, it's not even close. So Green Bay, relatively cheap at home against an Arizona team that's been feisty. I'm not convinced it's their spot.
269-270 up next, 10 a.m. Pacific kick, Houston and New England. We're seeing the Texans, Teddy, -7, 37 in the hook being the total. So we get kind of a sub-40 total here, laying a touchdown with the Texans on the road in New England up next.
Look ahead line, Houston -6, 41.5. My powering number, Houston -6/6. I was 6.25. So I write 6/6.5. Markets opened last night, 6.5/7. Total 38.5. And this morning, mostly 7s out there. Total's been bet down 37.5/38, the prevailing number. And of course, New England is the epitome of an under team, except that their defense isn't as good as it once was. They're showing cracks. But, I mean, Houston, they lost the penalty battle again yesterday. They didn't have a penalty for most of the first half, and then it fell apart in the second half for them. They were -2 in turnovers. They're not running the football particularly effectively. The Akers, Ogunbowale combo, 24 carries, 72 yards in yesterday's win. Nico Collins got hurt. And they didn't score a touchdown after his first quarter injury, just 3 field goals the rest of the way for Houston. D'Amico Ryan's quote, "It wasn't all pretty, but it's the way you finish at the end, and I'm proud of the way our guys finished." They finished at the end because Buffalo mismanaged the clock in the final minute and allowed Kai Fairbairn to hit a 59-yarder. But in the game against Indy on opening day, they scored 17 points in the second half. Since that time, 4 games since, 23 combined points in the second half. Houston, I keep expecting them to start clicking. They're not clicking. That being said, the Patriots have lost 4 straight games. They had that road win against Cincinnati in the opener. And it's not getting any better. They're averaging, 12 points a game. The offensive line has started 5 different OL combos in the first 5 games. The receiving core has the fewest receptions and the fewest yards of any team in the NFL. They ran for 7.9 yards per carry yesterday. They didn't score a touchdown. They allowed 41 carries for 193 yards. One of the concerns that I have about New England's defense starting to wear down. There's talking, every time New England loses, every week is, when's Drake May going to play? When's Drake May going to play? They can't put him back there behind that offensive line. Gerard Mayo. I will say Jacoby's out there trying to do what we've asked him to do from the start. He's taken some big hits, and his toughness continues to show up. Execution for the entire offense has to be better going forward. That was an ugly, ugly game yesterday against Miami. It wasn't pretty. And the fact they lost it, 12 penalties, 105 yards for New England in that contest. One would anticipate they would be more focused here. But then again, that's the way they're playing at home against a beatable division rival. It's already going to be a long year in New England. And this point spread is telling us more of the same. The question is Houston good enough? And for 4 quarters, good enough to take advantage of them? Because the Texans have not been playing 4 quarters of quality football, really, at any point this season.
Shout out to the live chat. Everybody joining us now. David, Marco, B Daddy. We got Roger in the house. A lot of guys. Titans CT, Paul Blakeney from England as well, guys. Always appreciate you guys chiming in the live chat. Also, the comments below. Any questions, fire away. We might have some time at the end of the show, so feel free to fire away any questions. All is welcome as we'll move down the list here, Teddy. 271-272, Tampa Bay and New Orleans. We are seeing the Saints -2 in the hook as the home favorite, 45.5 being the total. Keep in mind here, guys, the Saints playing on Monday Night Football, so things could change, but we get Tampa Bay and New Orleans up next, TC.
Yeah, Paul Blakeney from Essex, England. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. It's always stuck with me, and I appreciate many of you guys have been coming and watching the show for years and years. I've been doing this show since, about 2004, I think was when I started doing the NFL opening line report. So it's been 20 years that I've done it. I appreciate all your support very much, and we appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the comments. That's all. Thank you. So look at line here. Tampa, New Orleans was New Orleans 2.5 -20, total 44.5. My powering number on the game is only 1. I've been a little bit higher on Tampa than the market so far this season. I'm not surprised that my number came a little bit low. We're looking at 2.5/45 last night, and it's basically 2.5/45.5. Or 2/45.5 this morning, but that is not a mature market. As you mentioned, the Saints 2-2 heading into Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. If New Orleans wins tonight, this line's likely to be 3. So if this is a scenario, we talk about it, when we haven't talked about it that much this year, Drew, but this is one of those spots where if you like the Saints tonight, maybe you make 2 bets on New Orleans and bet them, but laying less than a field goal against Tampa, because it certainly feels like if New Orleans puts on a show and knocks off the undefeated Super Bowl champs, they could get some betting market support moving forward. For Tampa, worth noting, there is a hurricane coming, a significant hurricane coming. They are expected to leave town tomorrow on Tuesday for New Orleans. So they're expected to be getting out of town. Could be a proper team building experience. And also, depending on what's happening in their houses and what Tampa looks like, it could be an enormous distraction if everything's ruined in Tampa and all the players are sitting in a hotel in New Orleans all week. That could be a problem, especially when we talk about family and friends left behind. It's also worth noting Tampa's injury report. They had 14 players on the injury report last week. Antoine Winfield, Luke Godke, Clancy, Jordan Whitehead, more guys got hurt yesterday, and this is a Tampa team. They gave up 121 yards after first contact yesterday. That's a good indicator of how we were tackling. It's the 5th most yards after first contact allowed in the game this decade, and they also allowed 122 after contact against the Broncos in that Week 3 loss. So tackling and defensive concerns for Tampa very much on display right now. They are a banged-up football team.
Absolutely, Teddy, and good point with the hurricane and all those injuries as well, leaving early. That might be kind of logistics issues there. But from Tampa Bay, New Orleans, the Big Easy, we were heading up to Philadelphia for the next game. 10 a.m. Pacific kick here, just a couple left. Cleveland and Philadelphia. We are seeing the Eagles TC -8 in the hook or -9, depending where we're shopping. 43 or 43 in the hook being the total. Browns at Eagles. Next game up.
Look ahead line here. Philly -6, total 45.5. My powering number, 8.5. The markets last night, 8.5/9, 44. What are we seeing today? Same story, 8.5/9. Total's been bet down in the 43 range. Philly, 2-2. They're off a bye. They had that last second win against New Orleans and followed it up with a bad loss against Tampa Bay. Certainly, in theory, it's supposed to be a Philadelphia spot here. But the bigger story about what's going on with this game and why this point spread went from a look-ahead line of 6 to the current number of 9. Again, one game got played, but the markets are officially crashing on Cleveland. They have a 3-game losing streak right now to the Giants, the Raiders, and the Commanders. 3 teams that you looked preseason and said, win, win, win. Instead, loss, loss, locks. Kevin Stefanski, quote, "Nobody likes where we are. I don't feel good about 1-4. It eats at you." Stefanski, again, they gained 212 total yards, and they were 1 of 13 on third downs against Washington. We're not talking about a good defense. Watson got sacked 7 times. He's been sacked a league high 26 times. He lost a fumble. He's completed 60.2% of his passes, 852 yards, and 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Those aren't winning quarterback numbers. Watson, quote, "The offense is going to go as far as I go. So at the end of the day, we're not doing enough offensively. As a quarterback, you take all the pressure, you take all the heat, you take all the blame. I've got to find ways to bring everyone else along with each other, find out how we can get here on Sundays, and eliminate all the mistakes that are going to cause us to get behind the 8 ball and put ourselves in situations we don't want to be in." Stefanski, quote, "This is not a one-person issue on offense. We have the guys. We have the coaches. We will get it fixed." He also said he would not be relinquishing his play calling duties. Worth noting, Browns, 20 points or less in all 5 games this season. Last time they did that, to open a season, 1999.
Been a little while there, guys, as we'll move down the list. And to Nashville, Tennessee up next. Indianapolis and Tennessee, the Titans. We are seeing the Colts, Teddy, -1 pretty much across the board. The short road favorite, 42 and a hook, 43 is popping up as the total. Indianapolis at Tennessee.
Yeah, look at the line here. Indy -2, total 43.5. My powering number in this game is pick'em. The markets opened, really, it opened all over the place. There was Indy -1, there was Tennessee -1, there was pick'ems last night, total at 42. So today, the Colts have been largely installed as 1-point road favorites. There are exceptions to that. And total has been bet up a little bit, 42.5. Sorry, total's been bet down. It was 42 last night. The look ahead was 43.5. From the 42 last night, we've seen 42.5s this morning. So from the opener last night, we've seen some over money. Indy's defense is a problem right now. You know, I talked earlier about how the Jags had the lowest pressure rate, or Trevor Lawrence had the lowest pressure rate he'd had in any game in his career, and responded with his first 300-yard game since last November. And he allowed 8.7 yards per play yesterday. All right. They relied on a 4-man pass rush, but they're missing 3 of their top 4 pass rushers. DeForest Buckner's out, Kwity Paye, and Tyquan Lewis. There was no pressure in that ballgame. They scored 24 points in the fourth quarter when they finally started to throw the football a little bit downfield. 447 yards, 7 of 14 third downs. Positive things on the offense side of the football, and rally back from a deficit on the road, which is a positive thing. But that defense was absolutely torched. And the injury report, not necessarily pretty. Tennessee found a team they could beat in Miami on the Monday Night Football prior to the bye. They go into the bye. I don't know if fat and happy is the right word, but at least satisfied that they got the W. They're 1-3 off a Monday night win versus the Dolphins and a bye week. I'm not sure if that's a bet on or bet against situation. I'm surprised. That being said, like I said, my numbers pick them. I'm surprised that Indy is we're seeing -1s, and that's the way the market's moved here. There are concerns for the Colts right now, particularly on the defense side of the football.
Absolutely, Teddy. We get the LA Chargers, Denver Broncos up next as we are heading to the afternoon kicks here. 1:05 p.m. Pacific kick. -3. That is the Bolts as the road favorite. 35 in the hook. There is a couple 36s out there as the total. Chargers at Broncos, a mile high.
Yeah, if we did the emergency line betting report, opening line report, emerging with betting alerts on Sunday nights, this would have been one for last night because this line was 2.5 last night. I'm like, that can't hold, and it didn't. Look head line here was 2.5, 38.5. My powering number has the Chargers a proper 3 in this ball game. The markets opened 2.5, 36.5 last night. Today we're seeing 3s, 35.5/36. The total, lowest total on the board. We've seen under money coming on this one already. All right. We have Harbaugh and LA coming off a loss, a poorly played loss, and a bye week. Maybe a positive thing. Lots of injury concerns for the Chargers still. We don't know if Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt are going to be able to play this week. Joey Bosa is a question mark. 3 pretty influential players when it comes to left tackle, right tackle, best pass rusher when it comes to this ball game. Here's what Jim Harbaugh said after the loss to Kansas City prior to the bye. Quote, "We got to get Justin Herbert just a little bit more time. Some of the throws he made, some of the plays he made were really incredible. Got to look how we respond from here. It'll be like starting the season over again when we come back from the bye week." I think that's a positive quote. Denver was down 10-0, or no, they were down 10-3 when they had the 100-yard pick six that changed the game, but 0 offensive turnovers, a +3 turnover margin. When Sean Payton's winning the turnover margin, he's winning the games. Payton talking about a publicized argument with Nix on the sidelines yesterday, Bo Nix, quote, "It's part of the deal. There's still a little Ferris Bueller in this player that we got to get rid of," talking about Bo. And I love him to death. Sometimes it's my love language, So he was asked, why does Nix remind him of Ferris Bueller? Quote, "Ferris was kind of quirky, doing his own thing once in a while. You watch the movie, he's still got a little Ferris Bueller in him. Look, there are times when he sends something in and I don't want it flipped, and then he gets flipped, and so it's all good. He works his tail off, and I am that way. It is what it is." Bo Nix, 19 completions yesterday, competed to passes to a franchise record 11 different players. That being said, Denver has some real issues on their offensive line. Right tackle Mike McGlinchey's on IR. His replacement, Alex Palazewski, left the game with an ankle injury yesterday. Center Luke Wattenberg also left with an ankle injury yesterday. And Garrett Bowles limped off the field as well at left tackle, although he did return to the ballgame. He's not 100%. So Denver could have some real concerns on the offensive line. They have won 3 in a row.
Guys, we got a promo for the show extended through Monday Night Football. We get 1 year of Teddy covers for less than $100 a month. Teddy is up plus 137% profit in the NBA the last 3 seasons. You're looking for an NBA handicapper, TC's your guy. Guys, the coupon code Teddy365 at checkout for his 1 year all access pass. Huge discount there, less than $100 per month. Again, Teddy covers up plus 137% profit in the NBA. You get his NFL, college football, all sports as well. 1 year all access. Coupon code Teddy365 at checkout. TC, next game up, 279-280. Pittsburgh and Las Vegas Steelers, -3-point road favorites. 36 in the hook being the total right down the road from you.
Yeah. So just real quick about that special offer. I'm not a guy that hypes a ton. All right. This is an unbelievable deal. If you want to, I always say don't buy a play, buy a package. And I know it's pricey. You're talking about it, close to, it's $99 a month. So it's $11.88 for a 12-year all access pass. But it's a phenomenal deal at $99 a month. And there's no BS with it. Every play, every day, in every sport. Real simple. You want to try me, see what I can do for you in your bankroll? This is the opportunity to take advantage of. This coupon code expires at midnight tonight, Monday Night Football. So if you want to do it, get it done. Do it today. I appreciate your support. Now, let's talk about the Steelers and the Raiders. 2.5. Pittsburgh was a look headline, total of 39. My powering number on the game was 3. It's actually 2.5/3. It was a 2.75 for that ball game. The market's open 3 basically this morning, and they've the holding at 3. Total sitting 36.5. Another expected to be a low-scoring game, although that's what we expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The announcer said it over and over again last night. What does Pittsburgh do? They play in tight games, and more often than not, they find a way to win them, although they didn't last night and were really outplayed in that game by Dallas. I wasn't Dallas was the right side winner. Pittsburgh's defense made plays all game long, kept them in the contest, but it wasn't Pittsburgh's best offensive performance by any stretch of the imagination. Justin Fields has been better than he was. As for the Raiders, that was pretty ugly yesterday. They were up 10-3, and then, we had first and goal from the 5. You can't be throwing 100-yard picks. Maybe it's, third and goal from the 9. All right, you're trying to force something in. Not first and goal from the 5. It was a wide open Brock Bowers. Gardner Minshew just missed him. So they were up 10-3 when they had the 100-yard pick 6. And what happened after that? A 34-0 Denver run. The Raiders did not respond well to adversity. Gardner Minshew, quote, "It definitely swung the game. Obviously, I can't do that to our team, put us in a bad spot. That swing was definitely on me. I thought we got off to a good start, and then I killed our momentum with the pick 6. So Minshew got benched. Aiden O'Connell came in, and he wasn't much better. 10-20, 94 yards with an interception. They're now 0-2 straight up and against the spread off a win. They were -3 in turnovers. They had 11 penalties. Max Crosby. As a defense, as a unit, we talked about being the engine. And so regardless of the situation, we got to be able to respond. But yeah, we weren't good enough. We'll be better. I want a hungrier quote than that, personally. Pittsburgh is coming off a loss. Tomlin's been pretty good in that role.
We get Atlanta and Carolina up next. 4:25 Eastern kick here. Falcons -6-point road favorites. There is a 5 in the hook out there at a key global book. 47 in the hook being the total. Seems like the markets might be crashing on the Panthers as well here, TC.
Yeah, I crashed my Carolina Panther power rating yesterday as well. I had them back down to below everybody else by a 1.5. So, yeah, I made the same move. Look ahead line here, Atlanta 3-44, which is telling us, wow, there was some respect for Carolina in the marketplace. My powering number is now 6/6.5. Markets opened 5.5 last night. We're seeing 6s this morning. 48.5 at the open last night. We have seen under money around the key number of 48 when it comes to this total. So early under money and money for the Falcons. And of course, the Falcons had 550 yards on offense. Only had 1 sack. Which is a positive sign. Although, they only notched 1 sack, and it was their only quarterback hit of the entire game. Atlanta's defense, 5 sacks for the season. That's dead last in the NFL. Their 4.4 pressure rate on opposing quarterbacks, ahead of only Carolina. Their 3.4 hurry percentage, only better than Arizona and Cincinnati. This is not a good defense for Atlanta. Certainly hasn't been early on. Although they found a way, Young Ho Koo, second straight week from 50-plus yards out and a crucial field goal to send it to OT. Kirk Cousins, I'm proud of the grit. In this league, that's what it takes. We were gritty tonight. And, of course, Atlanta will have a little bit of extra time having played on Thursday against Tampa Bay. So that gives them a chance at least to get back to help. Carolina, they led 7-0 after a big Chuba Hubbard, man. That first touchdown run, Carolina came out in the game. It looked like they were about to steamroll Chicago. And then they got outscored 36-3 for the rest of the game. And Bryce Young got some garbage time in the fourth quarter. Dave Canales, he did a fantastic job, but Andy Dalton will remain our starter. Quote, "It's just about getting back to the basics, looking at this film, attacking the areas we need to improve on, and then just going on to the next game, getting our focus right back to work and capturing the great work." That was his explanation of why Dalton will remain the starter, why he got benched. Quote, "It's a hard situation. I want to get Andy out of there and give Bryce an opportunity to continue to put some good football out there while we had time." They lost their starting center, Austin Corbett, to a biceps injury. Their right tackle, Taylor Moton, had an elbow injury in the second half. Both guys getting MRIs today. Javon Clowney got hurt in that ball game. And, of course, they're already missing 4 defensive starters already out with injuries, including Shaq Thompson and Derek Brown. Yeah, this is a team that is the worst team in the league, and the markets are saying that. There's not a lot of betting market support right now for Carolina. There has been, and the markets, and the fact that there has been the last couple of weeks, the market is saying not so much this week. Although, again, when you talk about a team with a defense like the Falcons that didn't get any pressure on anyone, land this type of price on the road, it's a little bit of a leap of faith.
We get Detroit and Dallas for the final afternoon kick here before the Sunday night football matchup. It is the Lions, -3, -3.5 as the road favorite. Kind of a split line here at TC. In the other highest total game there with Washington and Baltimore, 52, 52.5 being the total. It's the Lions at the Cowboys.
Look at line here, Detroit -3 and 51. My powering number only is the Lions -1.5 for this ball game, and I've been fairly high on Detroit and not that high on Dallas. Last night we were seeing threes, and today we're seeing threes with some juice, some 3.5s, a couple 3.5s out there. Total 52/52.5. I don't like this spot for the Lions at all. They're off a huge Monday Night Football win and a bye week. That's exhale time. That's fat and happy time. That's not, oh, we're going to come in and rock time. And, of course, Dallas in playoff revenge. They're coming off a Sunday night win against Pittsburgh. They have back-to-back games where the offense didn't click. They had the Giants game 15-10 where they didn't cover the number in that contest. And then they had last night where they scored 20-17 final because of all the mistakes they made and the fact it wasn't a clean game, only 20. So this offense is off back-to-back games where they didn't click. Lions had a lot of problems defensively against Seattle, and they've had some defensive issues this season. It could potentially be a spot for Dallas to get their offense back on track against a team that may not be against a team they'll be excited to play and a team that may not be as focused as you want them to be.
Sunday night football up next, guys. Cincinnati Bengals, New York Giants. We are seeing it, 8:20 p.m. Eastern kick here. -3 in the hook, pretty much across the board. That is the Bengals as the road favorite. 48.5, 49 being the total in New Jersey.
So look at line here. The Cincy -5.5, total 46.5. My number's only 2.5 on this game. All right. I'm powering these two teams for right now, not these two teams for what they were supposed to be. That being said, the markets disagree with my number. They put it on the other side of the 3.5 at the opener. That's where it's still sitting. 48.5 was the total last night. We have seen some over money in a couple books. There are some 49/49.5 starting to pop. So Joe Burrow got some headlines yesterday. Quote, "We're not a championship level team right now. We're not. I like to think that we'll come back and improve throughout the season to get to that point. But right now we're not, and we have to get better. I know exactly how we're 1-4. We're not making plays at the end of the game to go win it. Definitely not in disbelief. I know exactly what's happening." Jamar Chase, quote, and this quote I didn't like at all. Quote, "I think that's what's causing us to be mad for the most part." And Chase had a huge game yesterday. Just putting up 30 points and losing right there. That's what we want to do as an offense. Put up 30 points, take over the game, put the ball in our hands, last drive and take over. That's what we want, and we didn't do it. Of course, they threw a pick on the drive before, and then so they ran the ball 3 times in a row to set up McPherson field goal in overtime, which didn't work out particularly well for them. But that Chase quote has a little, I'm throwing the defense under the bus smell to it. Oh, we did our part. And when a team's 1-4 and they're not supposed to be 1-4, sometimes the fingers start to get pointing. Zach Taylor, quote, "People can write us off if they really want to. I'm not dumb enough to do that." That being said, since he's not a team I'm excited about laying a price with on the highway. So the Giants, the first drive, they march down the field, get to the 1-inch line, and then have a 102-yard fumble return touchdown. They could have easily demoralized them. They're down 7-0 already. Instead, they drove down the field and tied the game 7-7. They had no neighbors. They had no Singletary at running back. Didn't matter. Darius Slayton stepped up at wide receiver. Tyrone Tracy stepped up at running back. He had 7.2 yards per pass attempt. They only went 1 of 4 in red zone offense, and they still won the game. All right? As underdogs, 3,000 miles from home. What's going on? They had 420 total yards of offense, 37 minutes of possession. Danny Dimes. We've said since training camp how much we like our skill guys and how deep we think those positions are. You saw a lot of guys step up today and make a lot of plays. Defense, 7 sacks in that ballgame. All of a sudden, that defensive line is a weapon. 2 weeks in a row, we saw them give Dallas all kinds of problems. They went into the game averaging only 85 rushing yards per game, 30th in the NFL, and they ran for 175 in that one. 3 straight covers for the Giants since that game against Washington, where they lost 3 points on extra points, and it made the difference in the cover, non-cover. Giants are playing better right now, which is a positive sign. Cincy, not so much.
Guys, we got the Monday Night Football game. Then we'll answer a few questions here. Already got a couple in the live chat. Really appreciate it. And feel free to comment below. We'll answer them on next week's show in the comments. For the NFL opening line report, huge shout out to the over 100 people that commented last week. Even more so to all the likes on the show, and over the 15,000 people that watched last week's show. So let's try to get this week up more. The comments below help out the algorithm, guys. So we're going to fire away some questions here at the end. So get them in the live chat and the comments below. Teddy, last game up here for the Week 6 slate, Monday, October 14th. AFC East battle here. A good one. Buffalo and the New York Jets. 41.5 being the total. We are seeing the Bills -2 and a hook as the road favorite.
Well, look ahead line here. Buffalo 2, 40. What is the hand? 41.5. Sorry. Yeah, that's what that says, right? No, 44.5. My apologies. To Buffalo 2, 44.5 was the look ahead. My powering number of Buffalo only 1.5. The market's open 2.5 and 41.5. So a big adjustment on the total from the look ahead line. And that's exactly where we're sitting today, 2.5/41.5. Two teams, both with high expectations, both coming off losses. It's a huge game. Make no mistake about it. Now, the Bills had some dicey clock management yesterday in the final 2 minutes. Gave Houston just enough time to kick that game-winning field goal. And Sean McDermott took all the blame for it after the game. It's on me, guys. This is my fault. Love it when coaches do that. Quote, that's on me, the end-of-game situation on offense. We need to run the clock and move the chains, and that's on me. We didn't do that there. It's my fault. That being said, they're in a game despite the fact that, Houston went 8 of 16 on third downs, 5 of 9 on third and long. Josh Allen, the lowest completion percentage in a game with at least 30 pass attempts in the last 30 seasons. 9 of 30 for 131 and 1 touchdown. They were without Khalil Shakir, and they missed him in that ballgame. And the passing game was just off from the beginning. Bills receivers, 4 catches on 18 targets in that ballgame. The worst by any team's wide receivers with a minimum of 15 targets since 2016. That was the Rams, Week 16, 2016, if you want to go look. So the bottom line for Buffalo, there was lots of stuff wrong that they did, and they were still in position to win the game at the end and then botched the clock to let it get away. Certainly, Buffalo's going to remember the last time they played the Jets on Monday Night Football. That opened the season last year. The Jets won on a punt return touchdown. There are concerns about the Jets right now, 57 dropbacks. Look, Nathaniel Hackett gave up on the running game, flat out gave up against Minnesota. 14 carries, 36 yards from the running backs. 57 dropbacks for Aaron Rodgers, for your 40-year-old quarterback. 3 interceptions, 3 sacks. Alan Lazard had multiple drops. Mike Williams, a complete non-factor. He's got 10 catches for 145 yards this year. He's not been what the Jets were hoping for when they acquired him in the offseason. Rodgers after the game, quote, in a game where you lose by six points, plays, the interception at the end, are exponentially highlighted. The turnovers for me is definitely out of character, and I'm disappointed. But this is the Jets coming off a bad offensive game where they lost 10-9 at home to Denver. Now you travel to London, have another bad offensive game. I mean, the defense played great. They allowed only 3 yards per play. It was Sam Darnold's worst game so far this season. They held the Vikings to 2 field goals in the second half, and they still couldn't find a way to win it. Both teams hungry. This should be a fun game on Monday night. But the early money has come for Buffalo and the under in this one.
Like it, Teddy. Question time here, guys. Fire away in the live chat, in the comments below. TC, actually, we got one here. A point from Roger Long. Low total. I'll probably tease the Jets. it brings up the fact, is this a good teaser opportunity? I guess you would get through 3 and 7. Any interest in that with the sort of low total in the Jets?
Yeah, in theory, it's supposed to be the right play. Absolutely. And in a year where favorites have not crashed and burned, favorites have absolutely destroyed bankrolls. If you've been laying more than 5.5, I mean, the numbers are insane so far this season. Again, yesterday, Arizona wins outright. The Giants win outright. The only games with point spreads in that range. We had 2 outright underdog wins. So it has not been a year for laying points so far. When you've been teasing the favorites down from 7 to 1, from 7.5 to 1.5, you've been getting crushed. The only thing that's working is teasing the dogs up. So absolutely, the Jets fall into teaser category. That said, if Buffalo can, they're going to stomp that team. It's a game where if the Bills have a chance to make a statement and punch in another touchdown, I think they will, and that does concern me teaser-wise. But for me, fundamental, these are the type of teams we're supposed to be looking for. The Jets are absolutely on that list.
Teddy, you bring up the favorites. Yeah, absolutely. You're there in Vegas. You talk to a lot of bookmakers. I'm just piggybacking off of that thought with college football. I mean, Vanderbilt, a lot of underdogs winning outright on Saturday. This was a heck of a weekend for the books, I'm guessing, no?
So not as much as you might think. It was not a great day in the books in the NFL on Sunday. It really wasn't. Because when you talk about which dogs came in, every parlay card had the Commanders over the Browns, right? Everyone had Denver. No one bet the Raiders yesterday. Jags Colts landed in the middle. The Vikings game was really bad for the house. So it wasn't like it was one of these days where everything broke right for the books. Books have done pretty well through the first month of the season, month plus of the season. But the thing that really stands out, we have to talk about the books. Depends who you cater to, man. The books that cater to wise guys versus the books that cater to the Joes, a little bit different in terms of how their early season results have gone.
Coin with a trend here, 19-4-1 this year with dogs plus 5.5 or higher in the NFL. That is a comment in the live chat here from Coin. 19-4-1 ATS dogs 5.5 or higher. Teddy, good question here from Travis Johns in the live chat. Teddy, for Tampa and New Orleans, how are you factoring the major rest discrepancy with Tampa coming off the Thursday night last week and New Orleans playing this week's Monday night game? That usually we don't get that. It's a Sunday and a Monday or a Thursday and a Sunday, not necessarily Thursday and then the other team Monday. That is a huge discrepancy.
It is, and it's advantage to the team that has more rest. But whatever advantage Tampa has for having more rest, there is an equal disadvantage for the fact that a giant hurricane is bearing down on all of their houses, which is something of an off-field distraction. In general, and again, are you going to quantify it? Maybe a half point worth. That's how much something like that situation. Like maybe you want to make it a point. If New Orleans in a barn burner tonight, if the nice game comes down, a super intense game comes down to the final possession, comes down to the final play, maybe you make it worth a point. But it's not worth more than that. Half a point / a point. And like I said, my personal power would be mitigated given the circumstances for Tampa and the hurricane that's about to hit them.
Yeah, good point there, question. Teddy. Sports Avenger asking, Teddy, Drew, good day to you both. Do you guys ever look at NFL standings and team records to determine players' motivation in certain games, helping you make a bet? Thanks, Sports Avenger. I would say, Teddy, yes. However, that factor is really factored into the line a lot of the times. But sure, I have a look at it. What about you, DC?
Half the time, I don't even know what the team's friggin' records are. I don't. You're an NFL player, all right? There are going to be a handful of times where the juice is a little bit higher. There's going to be a handful of times where the juice is a little bit lower. Most of the games, let's just call it a factor of a 0, and there's going to be 2 or 3 games where you're at a 1, and then 2 or 3 games where you're at a -1, but the majority of games are going to be at normal in terms of motivation. You do look for those spots where a team, but oftentimes a team that starts out flat, they don't necessarily end up flat by the fourth quarter, So the motivational issues for pro athletes, it's not like college. There are sandwich spots, there are flat spots. Look at Seattle yesterday. Classic example. But it's in college you find more, ain't nobody betting Vandy this week, for example. Whereas in the NFL, it's not quite as cut and dry.
Yeah, I saw that Vanderbilt line already pop up. We got John Doe in the house. Titans versus Colts. Is there a power rating difference between Levis and Rudolph or Flacco and Richardson? I was going to ask this when we were doing the rundown, but I like to wait for the questions at the end here, Teddy. John, great question. And I want to add on top of that, TC, because this is what I was going to ask you. You always bring up, the quarterback difference and the power rating, sure, but even I found an advantage in the over-under, betting them totals-wise. I think there's something to that. In Flacco with the Colts, he's more prone and he's more talented at throwing the ball down the field than Richardson. Therefore, I might look to bet over with the Colts. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, Richardson got a pretty good deep arm, man. Richardson made some plays this year that you're the only quarterback in the league that might have been able to do that. Think back to that Texans game week 1, what Richardson was doing. Okay, so when you have one quarterback that's going to dink and dunk and one quarterback that's going to take shots, that's a positive. That's a clear total situation. But in particular, Rudolph versus Levis for Tennessee, my powering adjustment for that would be pretty close to a 0. What was the other one that he was asking? Richardson versus Flacco, that's pretty close to a 0 as well. Richardson might be a half point better than Flacco, but in terms of actual, this is not a Dolphins without Tua scenario. Okay, these are quarterbacks where the backups are likely to be every bit as good as the starter. The backups have experience as NFL starting quarterbacks, which is something that Tim Boyle or Skylar Thompson or whoever else that Miami's trotting out there. I guess Huntley started a couple, but he's never been the guy like Flacco has been, for example, or Rudolph has been in Pittsburgh. So anyhow, from a power rating standpoint, pretty close to 0 for both of those QB adjustments.
Last question here, Teddy. Opening line report, the pre-OLR for next week. Dolphins off of a bye. You mentioned Huntley there. And do you put any credence into your handicapping a newer quarterback off of a bye week might actually be a bet on?
I haven't seen anything that I liked out of Miami for the last month. Yesterday's win was your eyeballs are bleeding if you watch that game, and I did. So, yes, in theory, Huntley's supposed to be better off the bye. I'm not convinced Miami's problems are solved.
Fair enough, TC. Guys, remember the coupon code there. We got under $100 a month for Teddy covers. You get the whole calendar year here, guys. NFL, college football, NBA, which Teddy has been killing. 137% profit over the last 3 years. Coupon code Teddy365 at checkout. Get you less than $100 a month. Teddy, throw it over to you. Any final thoughts before we shut this down?
Yeah, it's worth noting. The first half of that first NBA season, I lost a bunch. If you're talking from about the All-Star break, the last 2.5 years of the NBA, I'm up more than 200%. So for what it's worth, I expect to win money for you. It's a great opportunity. If you want to get on board, Teddy365 at checkout. Take advantage of that offer today. It expires after Monday Night Football tonight. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We appreciate the likes, the comments, the follows. I get in there every week. I try to do it at least twice to answer as many comments as I can. So if you got something to say it. Appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you. I get the comments are very flattering. Very flattering. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
And some good nuggets down there in the comments a lot of times, guys. I'll be in there chiming in as well. Comment below. Smash that like button. Huge shout out to Teddy Covers getting us ready for the week. We'll be back next Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Come back and join us for Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your week.